Revolver. A short hike brings joy, childlike curiosity, and sincerity in a compact $7.99 package. Game pricing is always weird since there's no real standard, especially in indie spaces, but this couldn't be any better. If you've ever done any sort of camping where you got some time away from home, maybe family as well, this game will unearth some old, beautiful memories. A kid needs cell service to call her mom after her aunt takes them on an outing. This outing leads to cute character interactions, open world exploration, and a runtime that will deeply enhance that last hour of the day, right before sleep. Every little cute element builds this up too, with simple Game Boy era aesthetics, adorable character dialogue, and gameplay that's smart but simple. Very clearly inspired by Zelda, you walk around, collect feathers to gain more jumps, talk to people about their lives, and possibly gather coins, primarily for feathers, exploring this whole island. A short hike really helps showcase simplicity can really work wonders for smaller, punchier games. Games don't always need to have complex systems to be satisfying, it just needs to work. This game expects you to beat it quickly, so it makes each moment monumental versus dragging it out for time. Some games of Uno in good company will beat out more complex and dynamic board games. The highs can be much higher, but if you don't excel at using that complexity, you may as well just play something simple. Simplicity provides less walls to dopamine, but that also means you need each moment to land or else it will quickly become uninteresting. And a short hike is among the most accessible, fun indie games there are. If I had a child, it'd be the first game I'd show them. A short hike is a must-buy, no sales. Very much perfect on the scale of a feel-good experience with genuine heart and soul. Indie Revolver. Pseudo Regalia is wonder, is youth, is magic. Where a short hike borrows from Wind Waker and Link to the Past Zelda, Pseudo Regalia borrows from Ocarina of Time and Breath of the Wild Zelda. A short hike gave the expression of dense, open exploration. Pseudo Regalia grounds that feeling alongside drawing you into this painting-esque world. The lore of the game airs on more abstract motivations, but the movement and music really keep you involved. This feels in the vein of those strange games that you play as a kid and all of a sudden it's 15 years later and you're unsure if those games were even real. If you think about like Crash Bandicoot, not as the iconic figure but as a premise, the universe built there is strange and involved. Pseudo Regalia has more heart than a Crash Bandicoot title, but it generally exists in that vein too. The areas are weird but open and impactful, the items are pretty digestible in concept and usage, and there's a bunch of little secrets across. Some games you play and you can tell that the developer made that game because they love the genre, and sometimes a specific era of that genre, immensely. This game especially. Pseudo Regalia runs for about 4 hours blind in about half that time if you're knowledgeable. Even got a stream of that on here from a while ago, and it's also one of my better performing YouTube shorts. Somehow, Pseudo Regalia is even cheaper than a short hike. Now, I wouldn't give a short hike a 10 out of 10, but I think I would give it like a must play out of 10. You get me? I think a short hike nails everything it wants to be, but Pseudo Regalia is pretty damn good too. $6. It's literally a Starbucks coffee, which maybe you'll even buy one and throw this thing on a laptop. Play at your college after your homework. Don't worry, I won't tell. Indie Revolver. Lunacy is a strange game. Sticking to this modern update on older trends, Lunacy is a descendant of Kingsfield, which is an ancestor of Dark Souls. It's a full RPG, first-person combat, snail-paced movement, and it'll last you 10 hours. This is probably the first indie game that feels less like a demo. I absolutely adore a short hike, but it will not satisfy someone with a big hunger. Pseudo Regalia gets closer, but Lunacid can truly satisfy. It isn't perfect though, but as an RPG, there's a lot of diverse ways to play. Sometimes an issue with popular RPGs is that they add a lot of boundaries for you to not be able to overcome, limiting your style of play. Most commonly, many RPGs refusing you to inflict status elements on bosses. In Lunacid, the game doesn't care if you absolutely demolish it with your knowledge. The sort of game that could very easily feel better on replays than a blind run because you can really satisfy your mind. Lunacid is a game that I did not finish because I kind of quit right next to the finish line, but I do think that I could easily enjoy it more now because I get it. I think RPGs have this really awesome ability to connect to your soul. Many games you live curated fantasies. Lunacid, at least I have everything I'll list in this video, is the most customizable fantasy. You could be a spellcaster or the bonk slayer. You could be a slow slug that hits like a truck, or a fast as hell speed demon that can easily get past challenges. The only issue, kinda, is that Lunacid doesn't have a great story. That only matters because with this game being 10 hours, it's the longest one so far. In Pseudo Regalia, none of that time is inhibited by the story content, and a short hike is designed to fit that time period. Lunacid's a bit dry on that component, which that doesn't have to matter to you. But I feel when you can kind of customize your character and play a game's story, especially with how customizable this game is, it's fun to be able to immerse that story just enough. I don't think Lucid needed 10 hours of dialogue or choices that matter, but I do wish whatever it could have used more of was apparent, because I think I would have liked it. Lucid excels in a lot of ways. I think a sequel, though, will probably be the one that I'd love way more than some of the other titles here. Not for a bump in story or anything, but I just think that critiques for this game, if there's going to be a sequel, would only do it good, because the follow-up would be probably as good as the other titles listed here. This is the first solid game that I wish were a bit better, and I think a follow-up could give me a more fulfilling experience than anything I've said so far, though. Indie Revolver. Cluster Truck is the most direct game on this list. You jump on trucks and make some distance. Indie Revolver. Okay, I'm kidding. But, I talk about it more with you today because I think this is the sort of game that should be evaluated with the same eye as the others. Not to judge it for oversimplicity, a kind of ugly font, or as an example. Cluster Truck is made by the same people who did Content Warning last year, Haste, which I absolutely consider a spiritual successor this year, and one of my favorite pulp battle royale games that barely gets played currently, Totally Accurate Battlegrounds. Seriously, I'd make a video on this just to make it blow up. This thing is awesome. Also, they did the surprise hit Peak, which I've seen some clips of at this point. I didn't know it was the same studio until I did research for this video. So, keep that in mind too. This is a fun studio who is focusing on making fun titles. Some of them are more serious with an intent like Haste, but you don't get to these more well-crafted or well-timed titles without a Cluster Truck. Without warning. Without content warning, without Peak. I also think as much as games should be evaluated as a game to be played, they should also be evaluated as art. Landfall has really came a long way since Cluster Truck, producing raw, fun titles. I also think it could be inspiring if you aren't trying to make one of these cult classic games, to just make something fun. I genuinely think a short hike needs no edits, and that's fine. But sometimes a piece of individual work is so good, it can overshadow or negatively impact any follow-ups. I don't think Landfall would ever have this problem, and I think it benefits from this being the sort of games that they do. I think that's why Peak is so easy to blow up, because you can't even really tell if they made a game to be fun and popular on something like TikTok, or if they just made a game that happened to be really funny, caught in the stream, and people don't even know that they also put out Haste, that AgroCrab also put out A Crab's Treasure. I mean, you just assume based on the name, but you get what I'm saying. Fun games have a lesser expectation, and it's easy just to put out those. But, something like a Final Fantasy, it sucks when those games aren't the greatest thing ever, because that's their expectation. But when Peak is fun for like 20 hours, people are like, that was the highlight of my year, man. All generally affordable too, sometimes full on free, and I think if you're considering making games or do so already, don't think you gotta make an artistic masterpiece, but also don't think you just have to be the jokester. You can live in whatever space of that you like. You could do really funny games like Totally Accurate Battlegrounds. I'm so serious, you guys gotta at least see some gameplay of it. It's so funny. But then there's Haste, and Peak is well crafted as much as it's also pretty funny. It's just about doing what feels right to you and keeps you afloat as a developer. Indie Revolver. Where Cluster Truck is the most direct, Burguys is the most indirect and honestly strange. Where Cluster Truck could easily land in any Dave & Buster's, Burguys barely scratches 85 Steam reviews as I'm writing this. However, I do think this game is pretty cool. If you just need a hidden gem pick from this video, this is the one. It's a flat $12 and may as well give it a buy. I'm debating telling you anything more about it. Okay, I will. Burguys is a tower defense, open world, Nier-inspired game. I don't entirely know of 100% of what this game is, but I could definitely tell descriptions will hold some accuracy. You get the Burgeist, a creature who I'm not gonna lie, I don't know anything about him. I kind of skipped the story. I simply wasn't engaged enough to look, and narratives in games are hard for me, because if I don't care about the gameplay, the narrative won't matter. But if I like the gameplay, then I want the narrative to be good. That's kind of what I was complaining about with Lunacid. The gameplay is so cool, I wish the story was more involved. I think about a book series I started reading recently called Cradle. I'll talk about it someday, I'm sure. But the first 20 pages, not gonna lie, almost pushed me away from the book entirely. But once I pushed through that, I was like, oh, these books are awesome. I'm about to be in book 3. And Burgeist, it was cool, but I was like, no, I kind of just want to know what this game is. And the second we get there, though, it's weird, but it's cool. Without really like touching controls, the game is actually pretty intuitive as long as you like at least process how everything is supposed to work. Moving the Burgeist, having the tower defense element play out, using your abilities is a little clunky, but overall it's fine, and so forth. Now, I usually would complain about open worlds being a little bare, but I don't know, it's just very charming to look at. So if there's no other reason you'd want to play, you could just walk around the world, and honestly, time well spent. You can halt the Burgeist and just ignore the narrative and just explore. The movement is a little more clunky than I'd want ideally, but it's not a big deal. Burgeist is a game that does many things pretty good and mashes ideas that shouldn't be compatible together pretty well. It's like reading into a strange world and having to abide by its rules, and those rules aren't so inhibiting. I really would recommend this one, more to support the developer than the game being like a masterpiece. But the game is special. The visuals of Burgeist 2 and just how the tower defense is honestly very fun and inventive for tower defense are some of its best elements. Indie Revolver. And finally, a game that, especially the version of it I'm picking, definitely is pushing it on the indie label. Now, you guys are all probably more familiar with Risk of Rain 2, which, if I allowed that to be an indie Revolver, too much space would be taken up by big hitter, popular indie games. I want diversity and niche titles over the ones that you probably know you would like. Hopu is probably, I hope I said that right, probably doing fine without your money right now, or already has gotten your money. The amount of times I've bought Risk of Rain 2 at an $8 price tag is crazy. However, I'll make an argument for Risk of Rain Returns. Originally created by two guys in Game Maker Studio. This game is tight. The gameplay loop is simple, but also distinct from the other titles I've mentioned so far, so here's a brief explanation. You choose a character, starting with a limited amount of abilities, launch to a semi-randomly generated level, and you see a timer tick down as you move around. I forgot if Risk of Rain Returns had a tutorial, but if so, you'd know you'd be looking for a teleporter, killing monsters for money, opening chests for random items until you win the game. It's a roguelike by definition, but also has just so much unique style and flair to it, really doing justice for the sci-fi genre. The same loop is also done for Risk of Rain 2, but in 3D. Think about it, if Risk of Rain 2 is like Super Mario 64 or Sunshine, Risk of Rain 1, the first one's like classic Mario, and Returns is like Mario World. It's like that kind of thing. The games are just different. The 3D aspect of 2 makes it very enjoyable in a different way. However, if you want a tougher game, by far is Risk of Rain Returns the tougher of the two. Here's the thing to note, is even in this gameplay, anyone who knows Risk of Rain might be like, those aren't random items you're getting out of the chests. Because there's an item in both, I guess all three games, the original Risk of Rain, 2, and Returns, an item called the Artifact of Command, which lets you choose your items. So, in the case that you thought any of these games wouldn't be great because the randomization's not really for you, you can choose your own items. But for me, someone who's played all these games for hundreds of hours, I like choosing my items. I get more fun out of that aspect of it. And even then, it's still harder than Risk of Rain 2, because you can't avoid damage as easily. You can get absolutely destroyed with no remorse. Risk of Rain Returns, though, however, is probably the most fun game I've talked about in this video. Cluster Truck was a lot of fun, and yeah, I was defending that. I think out of every game I've said so far, you probably will get the most out of Risk of Rain Returns, but then again, it's also the most polished of the titles here. Many of these games were either indie devs or solo projects or not the most significant title. This was a remake of a game that, to be clear, a lot of these foundations were already there. So to give credit, the original does stand, but it's also really buggy that I would recommend just getting Returns, especially because it's about the same price. The action is fast and overwhelming in a way that only Risk of Rain can excel at without being frustrating. It's also an easy game to put down. There aren't a billion needed progression systems for completion. There's just enough to get by, play a couple rounds after you put the kids to sleep, and right before going into work. It's definitely the best game here, but to repeat, it's unfair. But I would still, push for this game if this was just a mod onto the original that fixed all the issues, and it's just, buy the original, it supports them differently. All the same. Indie Revolver. And that's going to wrap up the first edition of Indie Revolver. A majority of the games that I talked about here I was intimately familiar with, except Burgeist. That one, let me know if that specific section was a bit choppier or not as well written as the other ones. I'm kind of trying to improve all my writing going forward, but it was the only one that was kind of, not the most knowledgeable about. I gave it some proper time, so I understood what I was dealing with, but I don't know. I'm gonna need some more feedback on that one. And if I'm overthinking it, fantastic. I guess before you give a comment, give a like, give me the algorithm. I don't really know where else I would kind of probably find places to update you guys besides like the occasional community tab. So I'm just gonna use the ending of the Indie Revolver videos. I finally got into like video making a lot more consistently, and we're hitting an every 2-week quota. Like, look, the videos can all be like null and void in terms of views for a long time, but honestly, me having a consistent schedule after so much time of just back and forth and then once a month, it's like, no, I'm locked in. I think I'm doing a good job. And I think my writing is going to get better going into the I think for you guys it will still be the next video if I planned everything correctly. As of me writing the original script that I was reading from, it was June 18th, 2025. It is now July 1st, 2025. Really pushing it for this one. I'm trying to be ahead and have like a backlog, but July is going to be a lot of video making stuff, so you might see a major update going into the next video, but who knows. The MOL video had just come out then, the roller drone video had just come out now, and I am just excited to be moving forward and working on more stuff, and I'm just really excited for things coming. Now, July is for video stuff, but then what's the plan for after July? Well, for me. For you guys are going to get videos until the end of the year. But for me, I'm going to use August as a break, and I want to do some writing. So that's going to be when I'm going to really focus on writing a novel I'm working on, which you guys, once again, I'm presuming no one's going to see this for a while. You guys could read eventually chapters on the website Royal Road, and that will be a good place to go for that purpose. And eventually when it's done, it'll be on Amazon, whatever. I'm just really excited I'm excited to balance both. I'm finally getting good video stuff, and I'm like, if I get far enough ahead, because trust me, this month is really meant to me for me to get far ahead. So as long as I have a cozy distance ahead, then we get to like, I think September, I'll probably like do the remaining videos I have while working on some other stuff for you guys. You guys will see. I'm just excited for the future, and I hope you guys read the book I make. I hope you guys enjoy a lot of the art I do. I'm gonna give you guys a secret, because once again, I don't think anyone's gonna see this for a while. These videos and stuff, it's meant to be for an artistic pivot I'm gonna do at some way later point, where it's not gonna be about video essays and stuff, but about the art that I make. So, like and subscribing is far more important for that eventual transition. Liking is just good to get me to a place of financial profitability before then. But yeah, I didn't know if I was good. I'm kind of just like freestyling this last part, so I didn't know I was gonna bring that up now. Anyway, so this ending section isn't longer than the rest of the video. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see where we're at. You know, this is going to be interesting. This YouTube channel stuff is fun, but it's hard. But at the same time, I'm grinding it out. I think I brought up Cradle earlier in this video. I'm on book. I'm about to start Black Flame. So if any of my Fatal Cradle readers, I heard this one's good. I really like Soulsmith. Unsold was cool too. This is just a note for you. This is a deep cut for the guys, for the people that like are gonna know what I'm talking about. And if not, read Cradle. Don't even subscribe to me. Just go buy Cradle, or wait for he does like a free book thing. Whatever. Thank you for watching. For those who come after.